Organized Mindset. Build a structured life, master your habits, and become a high-value person. Published by the Growth Mind Audiobook. Introduction. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from feeling busy all the time, but rarely feeling ahead. You answer messages, move from one task to another, make plans, break them, remember things too late, and end the day wondering where your time went. Nothing may be completely broken, yet somehow everything feels harder than it should. That feeling is often not a motivation problem, it is a structure problem. When your life has no clear structure, every decision competes with every other decision. Small responsibilities occupy the same mental space as important goals. Distractions become easier to follow than priorities. And habits begin making choices for you before you have even decided what you want. The good news is that you can change this. Not by trying to control every minute, not by creating an unrealistic routine that collapses the first time life gets complicated, and not by becoming obsessed with productivity. You change it by becoming deliberate. Start by clearing the space in your mind. Decide what you are carrying that no longer deserves your attention. Put unfinished responsibilities somewhere you can see them instead of forcing your brain to remember everything. Then choose what actually matters to you right now, what deserves your time, what can wait, what needs to disappear completely. Once you know that, build around it. Give important work a place in your day. Create habits that make good decisions easier. Remove distractions before you have to fight them. Put useful things within reach and unnecessary things out of the way. Create simple systems so your life does not depend on remembering everything at the perfect moment. And pay attention to the person you are becoming. Every repeated action is a small vote for an identity. When you keep your word, you become more dependable. When you finish difficult work, you become more capable. When you protect your attention, you become more focused. When you keep returning after failure, you become more resilient. That is what this audiobook is really about. Not having a cleaner calendar, not doing more for the sake of doing more. It is about building a life in which your actions increasingly match your intentions. You will not execute everything perfectly. You will have distracted mornings, missed routines, unfinished plans, and days when discipline feels far away. That is normal. The goal is not perfection. The goal is to recover faster, choose better, and keep building. So as you listen, do not ask, "How can I become more productive?" Ask something deeper. What would my life look like if I deliberately organized it around what truly matters? Then begin answering that question with your actions. One decision, one habit, one system, one day at a time. Chapter 1. Clear your mind and take back control. Before you organize your schedule, your workspace, your habits, or your goals, you have to deal with the place where all of those decisions begin. Your mind. You can own a beautiful planner and still live in chaos. You can have a perfectly arranged desk and still spend your entire day jumping between distractions. Real organization starts when you stop allowing every thought, request, worry, and impulse to compete for your attention. Think about how much you carry without realizing it. A message you need to answer. A bill you might forget, a project you have been postponing, something you said you would do last week, an idea you do not want to lose, a decision you keep avoiding. None of these things may seem overwhelming by themselves, but together they create mental noise. Your brain keeps reopening the same unfinished files, asking, "What about this? Did you remember that? When are you going to deal with it?" The result is a strange form of exhaustion. You may not have done anything physically demanding, yet you feel mentally crowded. The first move is simple. Stop using your mind as a storage room. Take everything that is occupying your attention and put it somewhere external. Write down the tasks, decisions, concerns, commitments, ideas, and unresolved problems that keep returning to your thoughts. Do not organize them immediately. First, empty the mental inbox. Then look at what you have written and ask a harder question. Does this actually deserve my attention? Some things will require action, some need to be scheduled, some can be delegated, some can be deleted, and some have been occupying your mind simply because you never gave yourself permission to let them go. This is where organization becomes more than tidiness. It becomes selection. You cannot give your best energy to everything. Every yes consumes a portion of your time, attention, or emotional capacity. If you continually accept tasks that do not support your priorities, you eventually leave too little space for the things that do. So choose deliberately. Identify the few areas that genuinely matter in this season of your life. Perhaps you need to improve your work, strengthen your relationships, develop a valuable skill, rebuild your finances, or simply become more dependable. Your priorities may change over time, but they cannot guide you if you have never defined them. Once you know what matters, create boundaries around it. If focused work matters, protect uninterrupted time for it. If learning matters, schedule time to study. If your relationships matter, stop assuming meaningful connection will somehow happen when you have free time. If your health matters, treat the behaviors that support it as commitments rather than optional extras. Do not wait until you feel organized to begin acting like an organized person. Action creates evidence. Evidence builds confidence. Confidence makes consistency easier. And remember, taking control does not mean controlling everything. Life will still surprise you. Plans will change. People will make unexpected demands. Some days will simply go badly. Your objective is not to eliminate uncertainty. Your objective is to stop adding unnecessary chaos to it. When your mind has a clear direction, unexpected problems become easier to handle because they are interruptions to a structure, not additions to an already shapeless day. So begin today. Take 10 quiet minutes. Empty your mind onto paper. Circle what genuinely matters. Cross out what does not. Choose your next important action and give it a specific place in your day. Then do it. Do not wait for the perfect mood. Do not redesign your entire life overnight. Start by creating one clear space in your mind and one deliberate action in your day. Because the organized life begins with a simple shift. You stop letting everything demand your attention and you start deciding what deserves it. Chapter 2. Choose your priorities and cut the noise. Once you clear your mind, the next challenge is deciding what deserves to stay there. This is where many people struggle. They want to improve everything at once. They want to earn more, exercise regularly, learn new skills, maintain perfect relationships, answer every message, finish every project, and somehow find time to rest. The ambition sounds admirable, but the result is usually scattered effort. When everything becomes a priority, nothing receives enough attention to matter. Organization requires a different approach. You must choose. A priority is not simply something you care about. It is something you are willing to protect with your time, energy, and decisions. You can say that writing matters to you, but if every evening disappears into entertainment, writing is not yet a priority. You can say that your career matters, but if you repeatedly give your best hours to low-value distractions, your calendar tells a different story. Your real priorities are visible in what you repeatedly do. That may be uncomfortable, but it is useful. Instead of judging yourself, use your behavior as information. Look at the last 7 days. Where did your time actually go? What received your attention? What did you repeatedly postpone? What activities left you feeling better afterward, and which ones quietly consumed hours without giving anything meaningful in return? Now make a distinction between being busy and moving forward. Busy work keeps you occupied. Valuable work changes something. It solves a problem, develops a skill, strengthens an important relationship, creates an opportunity, or moves a meaningful project closer to completion. The goal is not to eliminate every small task. The goal is to stop allowing small tasks to consume the space required for important ones. Start by choosing 3 priorities for the current season of your life. Not 10, not 20. 3. These priorities should represent the areas where progress would make the biggest difference. Once you identify them, ask yourself a practical question. What must I do consistently for these priorities to improve? That question turns vague ambition into action. If your priority is professional growth, perhaps you need an hour of focused learning each day. If your priority is financial stability, perhaps you need to track spending and increase your income-producing skills. If your priority is becoming more disciplined, perhaps you need to establish a consistent morning routine and keep one important promise to yourself every day. Then comes the difficult part. Protect your priorities from competition. Every day contains more opportunities than you can reasonably accept. Someone will ask for your time. Your phone will offer endless entertainment. A new idea will appear. Another invitation will arrive. Some requests will be reasonable and still deserve a no. Saying no is not automatically selfish. Sometimes it is responsible. When you say no to an unnecessary commitment, you are saying yes to something that matters more. When you decline a distraction, you are protecting your attention. When you stop chasing every opportunity, you create room to become excellent at the opportunities you have already chosen. This does not mean becoming rigid or unavailable. Leave room for spontaneity, relationships, rest, and unexpected events. Structure should create freedom, not suffocate it. The purpose of priorities is to give your life direction while leaving enough flexibility to remain human. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is the habit of asking, what matters most right now? Ask it before opening your phone. Ask it when your task list becomes overwhelming. Ask it when you receive a new request. Ask it when you feel tempted to abandon important work for something easier. Then act according to the answer. Your attention is a limited resource. Once an hour disappears, you cannot purchase it back. Once a year passes, you cannot reopen it and make a different decision. So stop treating your attention as an unlimited supply. Choose fewer things. Give them more of yourself. Remove what repeatedly steals your focus. Let other people have their priorities without automatically making them yours. You do not need to accomplish everything. You need to accomplish what matters. That is the difference between a crowded life and a directed one. And when you learn to direct your attention instead of distributing it everywhere, your days begin to produce something far more valuable than activity: meaningful progress. Chapter 3. Build your daily structure and direct your time. A clear mind and strong priorities are powerful, but they are not enough. If you leave your day completely undefined, the world will gladly fill the empty spaces for you. Messages arrive, requests appear, small problems demand attention. Your phone offers endless distractions. Before you realize it, evening arrives and the most important things are still waiting. That is why you need structure. Structure is not about turning your life into a rigid timetable where every minute is controlled. It is about deciding where your time should go before other people, devices, and impulses decide for you. A good structure gives your day a direction without taking away its flexibility. Start with your anchors. These are the activities that should remain relatively stable, regardless of how busy the day becomes. your waking time, essential work, important responsibilities, exercise, meals, learning, relationships, and sleep may all become anchors depending on your circumstances. They create the framework around which everything else can move. You do not need 20 rules. You need a few dependable ones. Next, identify your most valuable period of the day. When are you naturally alert? When can you think clearly? When are interruptions least likely? Protect that period for work that requires your best thinking. Do not give your freshest mental energy to scrolling through your phone. If you have an important project, difficult problem, creative task, or skill you need to develop, put it where your attention is strongest. Save routine activities for periods when your energy naturally declines. This simple adjustment can change the quality of your entire day. Then create a short list of meaningful outcomes rather than filling your schedule with endless tasks. At the beginning of the day, decide what would make the day successful, even if everything else did not get finished. Choose one major outcome and a few supporting tasks. This prevents the common trap of confusing a long task list with a productive day. Your schedule should also include transition space. People often create unrealistic plans because they assume every activity begins exactly on time and ends exactly when expected. Real life does not work that way. Conversations take longer, travel happens, problems appear. You need breathing room. Leave space between commitments. A structured day should have enough flexibility to absorb reality without collapsing. Another powerful practice is the evening reset. Before ending your day, spend a few minutes reviewing what happened. What did you complete? What remains unfinished? What is tomorrow's most important task? What needs to be prepared tonight so tomorrow begins smoothly? This small ritual prevents you from waking up into confusion. You are essentially handing your future self a map. And do not underestimate the power of preparation. Put the materials you need where you will see them. Decide what you will wear. Prepare your workspace. Write down the first task you will begin. Remove one decision from tomorrow before tomorrow arrives. Every unnecessary decision consumes a little mental energy. Preparation protects that energy for things that actually require judgment. But remember one important principle. Your schedule is a tool, not a master. If an unexpected responsibility appears, adjust it. If you are exhausted, recover. If circumstances change, redesign the day. Organization should help you respond intelligently, not punish you for being human. The objective is not to make every day identical. It is to make your important behaviors repeatable. Think of structure as a set of rails. The train can still move quickly, stop at different stations, and respond to changing conditions, but it has a direction. Without rails, movement alone does not guarantee arrival. Your day works the same way. So tonight, build tomorrow before you sleep. Choose your most important outcome. Identify the few tasks that support it. Decide when you will do your most demanding work. Prepare what you can in advance. Leave room for the unexpected. Then, when morning comes, begin with the decision you already made. Do not wake up and negotiate with yourself about what matters. Decide beforehand. Your time will be spent whether you manage it or not. The real question is whether you will spend it deliberately. Build the structure, protect the priorities, leave room to breathe, then let your day work for you instead of constantly working against you. Chapter 4. Install powerful habits and make discipline easier. Your life is not shaped primarily by the decisions you make once in a while. It is shaped by the behaviors you repeat when nobody is watching. A single productive morning can feel impressive, but it will not transform your life. A simple action performed consistently can. That is the quiet power of a habit. Habits are repeated decisions that eventually require less conscious effort. They allow you to stop negotiating with yourself every time you need to do something important. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like doing this today?" you create a pattern that makes the action familiar. This matters because motivation is unreliable. Some mornings you will feel energetic and ambitious. Other mornings you will want to stay in bed, avoid difficult work, or reach for easy entertainment. If your progress depends entirely on how you feel, your results will rise and fall with your mood. Discipline gives you another option. But discipline does not mean forcing yourself through misery every day. Strong discipline often comes from designing your surroundings and routines so that the right behavior requires less resistance. Start small. One of the biggest mistakes people make when changing their habits is trying to rebuild their entire identity in a single week. They create an elaborate morning routine, promise to exercise every day, plan hours of study, eliminate every distraction, and expect themselves to maintain it perfectly. That approach creates excitement, not necessarily consistency. Instead, choose one behavior that would make your life noticeably better. Make it specific. Read more is vague. Read 10 pages before checking social media is actionable. Exercise more is vague. Walk for 20 minutes after dinner gives you something concrete to execute. Then attach the new habit to something you already do. After brushing your teeth, stretch for 5 minutes. After making your morning coffee, review your priorities. After sitting at your desk, spend the first 20 minutes on your most important task. The existing behavior becomes the signal that reminds you what comes next. Your environment matters just as much. If you want to practice a skill, keep the necessary materials accessible. If you want to read, put the book where you normally reach for your phone. If you want fewer distractions, remove unnecessary notifications and make distracting apps harder to access. Do not make good behavior depend on heroic willpower when you can change the environment instead. At the same time, make undesirable behaviors inconvenient. You do not need to fight every temptation face to face. Create distance from it. The deeper goal is not simply to complete a habit, it is to change your relationship with yourself. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you send yourself evidence. I do what I say I will do. Every time you repeatedly ignore your own intentions, you send a different message. Over time, those messages influence your identity. That is why small habits matter far beyond their immediate results. 10 minutes of reading may not make you knowledgeable today. One workout will not transform your body. One focused work session will not create a successful career. But repeated actions accumulate. They create competence, confidence, and momentum. And when you miss a day, do not turn the mistake into an identity. Missing once is an event. Quitting is a pattern. Return quickly. If your routine breaks on Monday, restart Tuesday. If you lose focus for a week, rebuild the next day. Your ability to return is more important than your ability to maintain perfection. Now choose 3 habits that deserve a place in your life. Make each one small enough to perform consistently. Give each a clear trigger. Prepare your environment. Track your follow-through if that helps you stay accountable. Then stop searching for motivation. Begin. Do the behavior when it is easy. Do it when it is inconvenient. Do it when nobody notices. Eventually, repetition will reduce the friction that once made the action difficult. That is when discipline begins to feel different. You are no longer constantly forcing yourself to become organized. You are becoming organized through what you repeatedly do. Your habits are building your future quietly, one ordinary action at a time. Choose those actions carefully. Chapter 5. Break destructive patterns and replace them with better ones. Bad habits rarely appear out of nowhere. Most of them begin as small responses to predictable situations. You feel stressed, so you reach for your phone. You feel bored, so you open an app. A difficult task appears, so you suddenly decide that cleaning your room is urgent. You feel uncomfortable, so you postpone the conversation you know you need to have. The behavior may look like the problem, but often it is only the final link in a longer chain. To change the pattern, you have to find the chain. Start by noticing what happens immediately before the behavior you want to change. What time is it? Where are you? What are you feeling? Who are you with? What thought appears just before you act? What are you trying to escape, obtain, or avoid? These questions turn vague frustration into useful information. Suppose you repeatedly lose an hour to your phone at night. Simply telling yourself, "I need more discipline," may not solve much. Look closer. Perhaps you use your phone because you are mentally tired and want an effortless reward after a demanding day. Perhaps the device is beside your bed, already unlocked, with notifications waiting. The behavior is being supported by both emotion and environment. Now you have something you can change. Put the phone outside the bedroom. Charge it somewhere inconvenient. Decide on a replacement activity before the urge appears. Read a few pages. Take a shower. Prepare tomorrow's clothes. Write down your thoughts. The objective is not merely to remove the old behavior. It is to give yourself another path. This is one of the most important principles of behavior change. Replacement is stronger than resistance. If you only tell yourself what not to do, you leave a vacuum. Your brain will eventually return to the familiar behavior because it already knows what reward it provides. Give it a better alternative. If you automatically check social media whenever work becomes difficult, create a replacement ritual. Stand up, take 3 breaths, write down the exact problem you are facing. Work for another 5 minutes. You are teaching yourself that discomfort does not automatically require escape. If you spend impulsively whenever you feel stressed, create a different response. Step away from the purchase. Write down what you want and wait 24 hours. You are creating space between emotion and action. That space is powerful. It gives you the opportunity to choose rather than react. You should also examine the stories that support your patterns. Sometimes the behavior survives because you have given it a convincing explanation. I work better under pressure. I deserve this because today was difficult. I will start tomorrow. This is just how I am. Be careful with statements like these. Repeated explanations can become permission slips. You do not need to shame yourself for having destructive patterns. Shame often creates more stress, and stress can strengthen the very behavior you are trying to escape. Instead, become curious. Ask, what is this behavior doing for me, and what healthier way could meet that same need? Maybe you need rest, not entertainment. Maybe you need connection, not scrolling. Maybe you need clarity, not procrastination. Maybe you need to reduce an unrealistic workload rather than becoming better at enduring it. This is where genuine change begins. You stop fighting the surface and start redesigning the system underneath it. Choose one destructive pattern today. Do not attempt to fix everything at once. Write down its trigger, the behavior that follows, and the short-term reward it provides. Then design a replacement that gives you some of the same benefit without creating the same long-term cost. Finally, change the environment around the pattern. Remove one trigger, add one obstacle to the unwanted behavior. Make the better alternative easier to begin, then repeat. You will still have difficult moments. Old patterns have momentum. Sometimes you will fall back into them. When that happens, do not waste the next hour attacking yourself. Study what happened. Identify the trigger. Adjust the system. Restart. The goal is not to become someone who never feels temptation. The goal is to become someone who no longer obeys every impulse. Your habits do not have to remain your habits forever. A pattern repeated for years can still be interrupted by a deliberate decision today. Change the trigger, change the response, change the environment, then keep practicing the new path until it becomes the familiar one. Chapter 6. Defend your attention and do your most important work. Your attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess, yet most people give it away without noticing. A notification interrupts a thought. A message pulls you into another conversation. One quick look at social media becomes 20 minutes. A difficult task becomes uncomfortable, so you switch to something easier. By the end of the day, you may have spent hours doing things, but very little of that time was spent doing what actually mattered. The problem is not always a shortage of time. Often, it is a shortage of protected attention. You can have 8 free hours and accomplish very little if those hours are repeatedly fragmented. Focus requires continuity. Your brain needs enough uninterrupted time to move beyond the obvious, resist the urge to escape, and engage deeply with a demanding task. So stop treating every interruption as harmless. Start by deciding what deserves your deepest attention. Choose the work that creates the greatest long-term value. It might be building a business, studying, writing, solving an important problem, developing a professional skill, or having a meaningful conversation. Whatever it is, give it a protected place in your day. Then remove the obvious competitors. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Put your phone out of reach. Close tabs you do not need. Tell people when you are unavailable if your circumstances allow it. Do not keep entertainment one click away while expecting yourself to concentrate on difficult work. Make focus easier by making distraction harder. You should also stop confusing responsiveness with productivity. Answering every message immediately can feel responsible, but constant availability can destroy your ability to think. Not every message requires an instant response. Not every request deserves immediate attention. Create specific periods for communication when possible. Check messages deliberately rather than allowing them to interrupt you throughout the day. Another important skill is learning to stay when work becomes uncomfortable. The moment a task becomes difficult, your mind may offer an escape. Check something, get coffee, organize a file, browse the internet, or start another task. These activities feel productive because they allow you to avoid the discomfort of concentrated effort. Notice that moment. When you feel the urge to escape, pause. Ask yourself, am I actually finished, or am I simply uncomfortable? If the answer is discomfort, stay. Give yourself another 10 minutes. Break the problem into a smaller step. Write down what is confusing you. Continue until you reach a natural stopping point. This teaches your brain something important. Difficulty is not an emergency. You also need to respect recovery. Constant concentration is impossible. Your attention needs periods of rest. Take genuine breaks rather than replacing focused work with endless digital stimulation. Walk, stretch, look outside, have a conversation. Let your mind become quiet. The purpose of protecting attention is not to become productive every second. It is to make sure that when you choose to work, you are actually present. Try this today. Choose one important task and give it a protected block of time. Remove your phone from the immediate environment. Close unnecessary applications. Decide what you intend to accomplish before you begin. Then work on one thing until the block ends. You may discover that the task requires less total time than you expected when you stop interrupting yourself. That is the hidden advantage of focus. You do not necessarily need more hours. You need fewer divided hours. Your attention determines what gets built in your life, because whatever receives your attention repeatedly receives your energy. What receives your energy repeatedly becomes stronger. So guard your attention carefully. Do not give it to every notification, every opinion, every request, or every impulse. Choose what deserves your mind, then give it your full presence. That is how you turn time into progress. Chapter 7. Organize your environment and remove friction. Your environment is influencing you long before you consciously decide what to do. The phone sitting beside you invites you to check it. A cluttered desk makes unfinished work visible from every direction. A kitchen filled with convenient distractions makes certain choices easier. A workspace prepared for concentration makes beginning the right task almost effortless. This is why organization is not only a mental discipline, it is an environmental one. Look around you. Your surroundings are constantly giving you instructions, even when they are silent. They tell you what is easy, what is available, what is distracting, and what deserves attention. If you want to change your behavior, do not only change your intentions. Change the environment that surrounds those intentions. Start with the spaces you use most. You do not need to reorganize your entire home in one exhausting weekend. Choose one area where your daily behavior begins. It might be your desk, bedroom, kitchen, or workspace. Remove anything that does not belong there. Put frequently used items where they are easy to reach. Give important tools a permanent location. The objective is not perfection. The objective is reduced friction. When everything has a place, you spend less time searching. When your workspace contains only what you need, you create fewer opportunities for distraction. When tomorrow's materials are prepared tonight, beginning becomes easier. A few minutes of preparation can save repeated moments of resistance. Pay attention to digital clutter as well. Your phone and computer are environments too. Hundreds of notifications, unused applications, crowded folders, endless browser tabs, and unnecessary subscriptions create invisible noise. Even when you are not actively using them, they compete for mental space. Clean them. Turn off notifications that do not require immediate attention. Remove applications you rarely use. Organize important files. Close unnecessary tabs. Unsubscribe from information that repeatedly demands your attention without improving your life. Do not underestimate how much mental energy is consumed by digital disorder. Then examine your environment from another angle. What behaviors does it make easy? If you want to read more, place a book where you naturally sit. If you want to practice a skill, keep the necessary equipment ready. If you want to work without interruption, create a workspace associated primarily with focused work. If you want to reduce a distracting behavior, increase the number of steps required to perform it. This is behavioral design in its simplest form. Make the good path visible and convenient. Make the unwanted path less convenient. You can also use environmental cues to reinforce identity. A clean workspace quietly communicates that you take your work seriously. A prepared gym bag communicates that exercise is part of your routine. A simple notebook on your desk can remind you to plan before you react. Your surroundings can become reminders of the person you are trying to become. But avoid turning organization into another form of procrastination. Rearranging your desk for 3 hours does not count as meaningful productivity if you were supposed to complete an important project. Organize enough to remove friction, then return to the work. The environment exists to support action, so conduct a quick environmental audit today. Choose one physical space and one digital space. Remove what you do not need. Put important items within easy reach. Hide or remove one major distraction. Prepare one thing that will make tomorrow's important action easier. Then notice what changes. You may discover that discipline becomes easier when your surroundings stop fighting you. You do not need stronger willpower for every decision. Sometimes you simply need a better setup. Build an environment that makes your desired behavior obvious, accessible, and repeatable. Remove unnecessary obstacles. Reduce visual and digital noise. Prepare before you need to act. Because when your environment supports your intentions, you spend less energy forcing yourself to do the right thing. And that is the real purpose of organization. Not to make your surroundings look perfect, but to make the life you want easier to live. Chapter 8. Build reliable systems and stop relying on memory. There is a hidden cost to trying to remember everything. You remember the appointment, the deadline, the idea, the bill, the message you need to send, the project you promised to finish, and the small task that suddenly appears in the middle of your day. Your brain becomes a crowded notice board, constantly checking whether something has been forgotten. That is not organization. That is mental surveillance. A structured life does not depend on having an extraordinary memory. It depends on having reliable systems. A system is simply a dependable way of handling something repeatedly. Instead of asking yourself every day what needs to happen, you create a process that answers the question for you. Start with one simple capture system. Whenever something important enters your mind, put it somewhere you trust. It could be a notebook, a digital note, a task manager, or another tool you will actually use. The specific tool matters less than the reliability of the habit. The rule is simple. Capture it instead of carrying it. If you remember an important idea while walking, write it down. If someone gives you a deadline, record it immediately. If you think of something you need to buy, add it to your list rather than promising yourself you will remember later. This creates mental space. But capturing information is only the first half of the system. You also need a regular review. A list filled with hundreds of forgotten tasks is not an organized system. It is another form of clutter. Set aside a few minutes each day or week to review what you have captured. Decide what requires action, what should be scheduled, what can be delegated, and what no longer matters. Every item needs a destination. This principle can extend across your life. For work, create a consistent method for tracking projects and deadlines. For finances, establish a regular time to review spending and upcoming obligations. For household responsibilities, create recurring reminders instead of depending on memory. For learning, keep a simple record of what you are studying and what needs attention next. The goal is not to create a complicated productivity empire. In fact, complexity can become another form of disorder. A good system should make your life easier, not require constant maintenance. If your organizational method takes more energy than the problem it solves, simplify it. You should also create routines for recurring decisions. For example, if you repeatedly waste time wondering what to do first each morning, create a morning sequence. If you frequently forget to prepare for the next day, establish an evening reset. If your workspace repeatedly becomes chaotic, schedule a short weekly reset. The system handles the repetition. This is where organization begins to produce freedom. Once a process becomes dependable, you no longer need to repeatedly negotiate with yourself about it. You can direct your attention toward more meaningful decisions. Think about how much mental space becomes available when you know where everything belongs. Your calendar tells you where you need to be. Your task system tells you what needs action. Your notes hold ideas you do not want to lose. Your routines handle recurring responsibilities. Your environment supports your behavior. You stop asking, "What am I forgetting?" and start asking, "What should I focus on now?" That is a major shift. Of course, no system will eliminate responsibility. You still have to act. A beautifully organized task list does not complete the task. A calendar does not attend the meeting for you. A reminder does not create discipline. Systems are not substitutes for action. They are structures that make action easier and more reliable. So build your first system today. Choose one area of life that repeatedly creates mental clutter. Create one trusted place to capture everything related to it. Review that information at a regular time. Decide what needs action and give important items a clear next step. Then keep the system simple enough to maintain. Do not build a complicated machine when a reliable checklist will do. Your mind was designed to think, create, solve, and connect. It does not need to spend all day remembering where you put information. Capture what matters. Review it regularly. Create repeatable processes. Simplify wherever possible. Then let your systems carry the administrative weight while you use your mind for what only you can do. Stop trying to remember your entire life. Build a structure that remembers it for you. Chapter 9. Close open loops and finish what matters. There is a particular kind of mental weight that comes from unfinished things. The email you still need to answer, the project you started but abandoned, the conversation you know you should have, the book you keep saying you will finish, the decision you have postponed for weeks. None of these may demand your attention every minute, yet they remain quietly present in the background, consuming a little mental space each time you remember them. These are open loops. An open loop is anything that has begun in your mind but has not reached a clear conclusion. The problem is not simply that the task remains unfinished. The problem is that your brain continues trying to remember it, revisit it, and decide what to do about it. The solution is not to finish everything immediately. That would be impossible. The solution is to stop leaving important things undefined. Start by making a list of the unfinished responsibilities that keep returning to your thoughts. Do not trust your memory. Write them down. Seeing them outside your head changes the problem. You can now examine each one instead of allowing all of them to remain as vague pressure. Then give every item a decision. Finish it, schedule it, delegate it, simplify it, or eliminate it. This is powerful because many unfinished tasks do not actually require completion. They require a decision. Perhaps you have been keeping an old project alive simply because you once believed it was a good idea. Perhaps you continue planning an activity that no longer fits your priorities. Perhaps you have been avoiding a decision because choosing either option feels uncomfortable. You do not always need more time. Sometimes you need closure. One reason people struggle to finish is that they confuse perfection with completion. They keep improving, adjusting, researching, and preparing because finishing creates the possibility of judgment. An imperfect finished project can be evaluated. An unfinished project can remain protected by potential. At some point, you have to decide what done means. Define the finish line before you begin whenever possible. If you are writing an article, decide what constitutes a complete draft. If you are organizing a room, define the condition you are trying to create. If you are studying a subject, determine what level of understanding is sufficient for the current purpose. A clear finish line prevents endless effort. You should also learn to identify the difference between meaningful persistence and stubborn attachment. Continuing because a task matters is persistence. Continuing because you cannot admit that the task no longer matters is attachment. Be willing to release things. Your future requires space. Every unnecessary commitment occupies time that could be used for something better. Every abandoned project you refuse to acknowledge continues consuming attention. Closing a loop does not always mean completing the original plan. Sometimes it means saying, "I am no longer doing this." That is not failure, it is clarity. Another important practice is finishing small things immediately when they genuinely require little effort. If a task takes a minute and you are already in the right context, handle it rather than creating another item for your future self. But be careful not to turn this principle into constant task switching. Important work still deserves protected focus. The larger lesson is this: completion creates momentum. Every finished responsibility removes friction. Every closed loop gives you back attention. Every completed promise strengthens your trust in yourself. You begin to feel lighter, not because life has fewer responsibilities, but because fewer responsibilities are floating around without a clear place. So choose one area of unfinished business today. Write down every open loop you can identify, then process them one by one. Finish what deserves finishing. Schedule what cannot be completed now. Delegate what someone else can handle. Remove what no longer matters. Then choose one task you have been postponing and complete it before the day ends. Feel what happens when you stop carrying it. That feeling is not merely relief. It is evidence that action creates clarity. Do not build your future on a pile of unfinished intentions. Close the loops. Finish what matters. Release what does not. And make room for the next important thing. Chapter 10. Raise your standards and become someone others can trust. Organization becomes far more powerful when it stops being something you do and becomes something you expect from yourself. A calendar can organize your appointments, a checklist can organize your tasks, and a system can organize your responsibilities, but none of them can decide what kind of person you will be. That decision comes from your standards. Your standards are the rules you quietly live by. They determine whether you keep a promise when nobody is checking, whether you arrive prepared, whether you finish what you said you would finish, and whether you take responsibility when something goes wrong. They are not the image you present to other people. They are the behavior you repeat when there is no audience. If you want to become a high-value person, begin by becoming reliable. Reliability is underrated because it is not flashy. It does not require dramatic achievements. It means people can trust your word. If you say you will call, you call. If you commit to a deadline, you respect it. If circumstances make the commitment impossible, you communicate early instead of disappearing. Small acts of reliability create a reputation over time. Start with the promises you make to yourself. Perhaps you repeatedly tell yourself you will wake up earlier, exercise, study, save money, or finish a project. Every time you make a promise and casually abandon it, you weaken your confidence in your own word. Eventually, you stop believing yourself. The solution is not to make bigger promises. Make fewer promises and keep them. Choose commitments that are realistic enough to honor consistently. If you cannot maintain an elaborate routine, create a simpler one. If an hour of daily learning is unrealistic, begin with 20 minutes. Your objective is to build evidence that you can depend on yourself. Then gradually raise the standard. Do not raise your standards through self-criticism. Raise them through deliberate practice. Decide what good enough means in the important areas of your life. How do you want to communicate? How do you want to handle money? How do you want to treat people? How do you want to respond under pressure? What quality of work are you willing to attach your name to? Once those standards are clear, use them to make decisions. A person without standards negotiates with every situation. A person with standards already knows what is acceptable. This does not mean becoming rigid or judgmental. High standards are not about demanding perfection from yourself or everyone around you. They are about refusing to repeatedly tolerate behaviors that undermine the person you are trying to become. You will still make mistakes. You will occasionally be late, distracted, impatient, or unprepared. The important question is what you do afterward. Take responsibility, correct the problem, learn from it, adjust the system that allowed it to happen, then continue. Trust is built not by never making mistakes, but by responding to mistakes with honesty and accountability. Look at the people you admire. Often their value is not based solely on talent. You trust them because they follow through. They communicate clearly, they prepare, they remain steady when circumstances become difficult. Become that person. Today, choose 3 personal standards you are willing to protect. Perhaps one involves your time, one your commitments, and one the quality of your work. Write them down. Then identify one behavior that would demonstrate each standard immediately. Do not announce your new standards to everyone. Practice them. Let your behavior speak first. Over time, something changes. You stop asking, "What can I get away with?" and begin asking, "What kind of person do I want to be?" That question is the beginning of personal authority. Raise your standards carefully. Keep your word. Take responsibility. Prepare before you act. Finish what you commit to. Become dependable when it is inconvenient. Because your value is not determined only by what you know or what you achieve. It is also determined by whether people and, most importantly, you can trust the person you are becoming. Chapter 11. Control your energy and perform at your best. You can organize every hour of your day and still struggle to perform if you ignore the condition of the person living those hours. Time may be measurable, but your capacity to use it well is not constant. Some hours bring sharp thinking and patience. Others bring fatigue, irritability, and a mind that seems to resist even simple decisions. That is why managing your life requires more than managing a calendar. You also need to manage your energy. Energy determines the quality of your attention, decisions, patience, creativity, and effort. When your energy is low, ordinary responsibilities can feel unnecessarily difficult. You may reach for distractions not because you lack ambition, but because your brain is searching for something easier. Start by noticing your natural rhythm. When do you think most clearly? When do you become sluggish? When are you most creative? When do you naturally want to move, socialize, or rest? Do not assume everyone should follow the same productivity schedule. Your goal is to understand your own patterns and use them intelligently. Once you identify your strongest period, protect it. Place demanding work there whenever possible. Use your high-energy hours for decisions, creative work, learning, problem-solving, and tasks that require concentration. Save routine administration for periods when your mental capacity is lower. This is not laziness. It is strategic allocation. You should also stop treating sleep as leftover time. If you continually sacrifice recovery to create more working hours, you may gain time on the clock while losing quality from the hours you keep. A tired mind makes poorer decisions, loses focus more easily, and requires more effort to accomplish ordinary tasks. Protect your recovery. Create a consistent sleep routine when your circumstances allow it. Give yourself time to disconnect before bed. Do not turn every late night into evidence of ambition. Sometimes the most productive decision you can make is to stop working. Movement matters too. You do not need to become an elite athlete to benefit from physical activity. Walk, stretch, exercise in a way you can sustain. Your body is not separate from your productivity. It is the system carrying your attention through the day. Food, hydration, breaks, sunlight, movement, and quiet time can all influence how you feel and perform. Treat them as maintenance rather than rewards you earn after exhausting yourself. Then examine emotional energy. Some commitments drain you repeatedly. Some conversations leave you scattered. Some environments create unnecessary tension. Some unresolved conflicts consume attention long after the interaction ends. You cannot eliminate every difficult experience, but you can become more intentional about what you repeatedly expose yourself to. Learn to distinguish between productive discomfort and unnecessary depletion. Learning a difficult skill may be tiring but worthwhile. Constantly responding to avoidable drama is different. Deep work may require effort. Endless distraction often leaves you tired without giving you anything valuable in return. Your goal is not to maximize energy every moment. It is to spend it where it produces something meaningful. Try a simple experiment today. Track your energy at 3 points: morning, afternoon, and evening. Notice what you have done, how you feel, and what kind of work you were performing. After several days, patterns will begin to appear. Then adjust your schedule. Move important work toward your strongest periods. Add recovery before exhaustion forces it upon you. Reduce unnecessary energy drains. Prepare for demanding tasks instead of entering them already depleted. And remember that energy management includes knowing when to stop. A person who never rests eventually becomes less capable of doing the things that matter. You do not need to squeeze maximum output from every hour. You need to protect the person who must live those hours. Manage your energy deliberately, and your time becomes more useful. Because a well-organized day is valuable, but a well-directed, well-rested, fully present person can do far more with that day. Chapter 12. Stay consistent and keep moving. When motivation fades. Motivation is useful, but it is a terrible foundation for a life. It arrives with energy, enthusiasm, and confidence, then disappears without warning. One week, you may feel unstoppable. The next, the same goal can feel strangely unimportant. If your progress depends on feeling inspired, your progress will always be vulnerable to your mood. Consistency gives you something stronger. Consistency means continuing to act according to your priorities, even when the emotional excitement has disappeared. It does not mean performing perfectly every day. It means maintaining a direction and returning to it whenever you drift. This distinction matters. Many people imagine consistency as an unbroken streak. They believe that if they miss one workout, skip one study session, or have one unproductive day, the entire effort has failed. That mindset turns a small interruption into an excuse to quit. Do not think that way. Think in terms of returning. You will have difficult days. You will become sick, distracted, overwhelmed, disappointed, or simply tired. Plans will break. Unexpected responsibilities will appear. Sometimes you will make choices that do not match the person you are trying to become. The question is not whether this will happen. The question is how quickly you will recover. Create a minimum standard for difficult days. Perhaps your normal study session is an hour, but on a difficult day, you commit to 10 minutes. Perhaps you normally exercise for 45 minutes, but when life becomes chaotic, you take a short walk. Perhaps your writing routine is 1,000 words, but your minimum is 1 paragraph. The minimum keeps the identity alive. It tells you, I am still the person who does this. This is more powerful than waiting for the perfect opportunity to restart. You should also stop making motivation responsible for decisions that have already been made. If you have decided that a certain behavior matters, you do not need to hold a daily debate about whether you feel like doing it. Your decision happened earlier. Your job now is to execute it. This is why routines are valuable. A routine reduces the number of negotiations between intention and action. You do not wake up wondering whether brushing your teeth is worth the effort. It is simply part of the sequence. Important behaviors can become equally automatic when repeated long enough. But consistency requires flexibility. A rigid system can break under real-life pressure. If your routine only works when you have perfect sleep, unlimited time, ideal weather, and no unexpected responsibilities, it is not a strong routine. It is a fragile arrangement. Build systems that can bend without breaking. Have a normal version and a reduced version. Know what you do when circumstances are good and what you do when circumstances are difficult. This prevents the all-or-nothing trap. You also need to measure the right thing. Do not judge yourself only by visible results. Results often take time. Instead, measure the behaviors that produce them. Did you practice? Did you show up? Did you protect your focus? Did you keep the commitment? Did you return after missing it? These are within your control. Progress is often invisible before it becomes obvious. A person can practice a skill for weeks without seeing dramatic improvement. Someone can save money for months before the difference feels significant. A new routine can feel ordinary long before it changes a life. Keep going. Think of consistency as compound interest for behavior. One action seems small. Hundreds of actions create a different reality. So choose one important behavior you want to maintain. Define the normal version. Define the minimum version. Decide what you will do when motivation disappears. Then remove as much decision-making from the process as possible. And when you fail, restart immediately. Do not wait for Monday. Do not wait for a new month. Do not create a dramatic speech about starting over. Start with the next available action. One missed day does not define you. One difficult week does not erase your progress. What defines you is what you repeatedly choose after the interruption. Motivation may start the journey, but consistency carries it. Keep showing up. Keep adjusting. Keep returning. Eventually, the behavior that once required discipline will become part of your identity, and that is when consistency stops feeling like a struggle and starts becoming the way you live. Chapter 13. Upgrade your skills and increase your personal value. Becoming organized is not the final destination. Organization creates something more valuable: capacity. When your mind is clearer, your time is structured, your habits are dependable, and your attention is protected, you finally have room to ask a bigger question. What am I building with all this order? The answer should be growth. A high-value person is not simply someone who earns a lot of money, looks successful, or appears impressive. Value is built through usefulness. The more effectively you can solve meaningful problems, create worthwhile results, communicate clearly, adapt to change, and contribute to other people, the more valuable you become. That means you have to keep developing. Start by identifying the skills that could change your future. Do not learn random things simply because they are interesting. Curiosity is valuable, but focused development produces stronger results. Ask yourself, what abilities would make you more capable in your work, relationships, business, or personal life? Perhaps you need better communication? Maybe you need stronger writing, sales, leadership, financial understanding, technical knowledge, problem-solving, negotiation, or emotional intelligence. Choose one. Then stop treating learning as something you will do when you have spare time. Schedule it. Give the skill a regular place in your week. Even 30 focused minutes repeated consistently can become significant over time. The goal is not to consume endless information. The goal is to become better at doing something. That distinction matters. Information can make you feel educated without making you capable. Watching another tutorial is not the same as practicing. Reading about communication is not the same as having difficult conversations. Studying business concepts is not the same as making decisions under real pressure. Turn knowledge into output. Write something, build something, solve something, teach someone, practice the skill in a real situation. Ask for feedback. Make mistakes where the consequences are manageable. Then improve. Competence grows through contact with reality. You should also develop the ability to learn efficiently. When you encounter something you do not understand, resist the urge to immediately label yourself as incapable. Break the subject into smaller parts. Find the missing piece. Practice it. Return to the larger problem. Organized thinking helps here because it allows you to separate confusion into components. Another part of becoming valuable is learning to communicate your value. Being capable is important, but if you cannot explain ideas, listen carefully, collaborate, or make your work understandable, your capability may remain invisible. Learn to communicate with precision. Say what you mean. Listen before responding. Ask better questions. Write clearly. Keep your promises. Give useful feedback without unnecessary cruelty. Learn when to speak and when silence is more valuable. Your character matters too. Skill without integrity can create impressive results and terrible consequences. Reliability, humility, responsibility, emotional control, curiosity, and respect are forms of value that compound across every area of life. Do not build a powerful skill while neglecting the person using it. You should also become comfortable with being a beginner. High-value people are not people who already know everything. They are people who can enter unfamiliar territory without allowing their ego to prevent them from learning. Ask questions, seek criticism, admit what you do not know, then improve. Today, choose one skill that would meaningfully increase your capabilities over the next year. Define what improvement would look like. Identify the smallest useful practice you can perform regularly. Put that practice into your schedule. Then create a feedback loop. Practice, produce, review, correct, repeat. Do not measure your development only by how much information you consume. Measure what you can now do that you could not do before. That is growth. Your organizational systems give you time. Your habits give you consistency. Your focus gives you depth. Your standards give you reliability. Now use all of them to become more capable. Because the ultimate purpose of organizing your life is not to maintain a neat schedule. It is to create the freedom and capacity to become someone who can do more meaningful things, solve better problems, contribute more deeply, and create greater value. Do not simply organize your life. Use that organization to build yourself. Chapter 14. Design your personal operating system and live by it. You have cleared your mind, chosen your priorities, built structure into your days, strengthened your habits, protected your attention, organized your environment, created reliable systems, raised your standards, managed your energy, practiced consistency, and invested in your growth. Now comes the most important step, bringing all of those pieces together. Because organization becomes truly powerful when it stops being a collection of techniques and becomes a way of operating. Think of your life as a system. Your decisions are inputs. Your habits are repeated processes. Your environment influences your behavior. Your standards determine what you accept. Your priorities determine where your resources go. Your results are the output. If those parts constantly contradict one another, life feels difficult. If they work together, progress becomes much easier. Your personal operating system begins with principles. Decide what you want your life to stand for. Perhaps you value discipline, honesty, learning, responsibility, freedom, meaningful relationships, excellence, or service. Choose principles that actually matter to you, not words that simply sound impressive. Then turn those principles into rules you can use. If you value focus, perhaps you do not check your phone during important work. If you value reliability, you communicate early when you cannot keep a commitment. If you value growth, you dedicate regular time to learning. If you value relationships, you do not allow busyness to become a permanent excuse for neglecting people you care about. Principles become powerful when they influence behavior. Your operating system should also include a method for reviewing your life. Do not assume that the system you create today will remain perfect forever. Circumstances change, responsibilities change, your goals change. What worked 6 months ago may become unnecessary or restrictive. Review regularly. Ask yourself, what is working? What keeps breaking? Where am I wasting time? Which habits are helping me? Which commitments no longer deserve space? What needs to be simplified? What should I begin doing, stop doing, or continue doing? Do not defend a system simply because you created it. Improve it. You should also decide what happens when life becomes chaotic. This is where your system proves its value. When everything goes wrong, return to your fundamentals. Protect sleep. Re-establish your priorities, clear the immediate clutter, complete the most important responsibility, restore your routine one piece at a time. Do not wait for perfect conditions to rebuild. Return to the basics. And remember that your operating system should create freedom, not obsession. You are building structure so you can live more intentionally, not so you can spend your entire life monitoring yourself. Leave room for spontaneity, leave room for relationships, leave room for rest, leave room for things you could never have predicted. A strong system gives you stability without demanding rigidity. Now create your own personal operating principles. Write down 5 rules that describe how you want to live. Make them practical enough to guide real decisions. Then choose 1 daily practice, 1 weekly review, and 1 standard you refuse to compromise on. Keep them visible, use them, adjust them when necessary. Most importantly, stop thinking of organization as something you occasionally need to get back into. You are building an identity. An organized person does not have a perfect life. They know how to regain direction when life becomes messy. They do not avoid every distraction. They know how to return their attention. They do not complete every plan. They know how to adjust without abandoning what matters. They do not depend on motivation. They know how to act from principle. That is the real destination. Not a perfectly controlled life, a deliberately directed one. From this point forward, do not ask only, what should I do today? Ask, what kind of person does this decision make me? Then choose accordingly. Build your system. Test it. Refine it. Live by it. Because when your values shape your decisions shape your habits shape your days, and your days shape your future. That is how you stop merely organizing your life and start designing it. Conclusion: take control, build structure, and become the person you choose to be. An organized life does not begin when everything is finally under control. If you wait for that moment, you will wait forever. Life will continue to change, responsibilities will appear, plans will break, unexpected problems will interrupt your schedule, people will need you, your energy will rise and fall. Organization is not the elimination of chaos, it is your ability to create direction even when chaos arrives. You have now explored the pieces that make that possible. You learn to clear your mind instead of carrying every unfinished thought. You learn to choose priorities rather than treating everything as equally important. You learn to structure your days, build habits, redesign destructive patterns, protect your attention, and shape your environment so that better choices become easier. You learn to create systems instead of depending on memory. You learn to close open loops, finish what matters, raise your standards, manage your energy, and continue when motivation disappears. Finally, you learn that organization should serve something bigger than productivity: your growth, your character, your capabilities, and the life you deliberately choose to build. Now, the real work begins. Do not try to change everything tomorrow morning. That usually creates excitement, followed by exhaustion. Choose one principle from this audiobook and put it into practice. Clear one source of mental clutter. Protect one block of focused time. Build one useful habit. Remove one recurring distraction. Finish one task you have been avoiding. Then repeat. Your transformation will not come from one extraordinary day. It will come from ordinary days handled with greater intention. Remember this: your schedule reveals your priorities, your habits reveal your standards, and your repeated actions reveal the direction of your life. So pay attention to what you repeat. If something matters, give it a place in your calendar. If something damages your progress, make it harder to access. If a responsibility keeps returning to your mind, capture it and decide what to do. If a commitment no longer serves your priorities, release it. If you fall away from your routine, return without drama. You do not need a perfect system. You need a system you can return to. You do not need endless motivation. You need standards that survive changing moods. You do not need to control every part of your life. You need to become deliberate about the parts you can control. That is the organized mindset. It is not about having more things arranged neatly around you. It is about creating alignment between what you value, what you decide, what you practice, and how you spend your limited time. Your future is being built quietly through today's choices, so choose with intention. Clear the noise, protect your attention, build useful habits, keep your word, develop your abilities, review your direction, simplify what no longer matters. And when life becomes messy, do not conclude that your system has failed. Return to it. Start again. Build again. Because the goal was never to create a life without disorder. The goal was to become the person who can create order, direction, and progress even when disorder appears. Your life is yours to shape. Now go and shape it deliberately.